All right, so continuing on, method number 3, like I said, is called the swing method. So we're going to do method 3 over here. And this is called the swing method. So again, we are going to start off with the same problems. We can do the same problem 3 different ways so you can see which method you like both best. And I do not care which method that you use moving forward. If you're a puzzler, you puzzle. If you like the strategic portion of factoring by grouping, you can do that too, or the X method like we talked about, or you can do the swing method. So moving forward, you can use whatever method you like. For the problems, I'll probably do one of these 2 methods in order to get those solidified in our brain. So the swing method, we still need to do some similar work to what we did in the X method. We need to figure out what A times C is. So A times C is equal to 40. So again, we've got that 40, same thing that we did over there. We are now going to list all the numbers that multiply to 40. So just like in the last problem, we have 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, and 5 times 8, right? We can organize them in a nice list here. They're in numerical order. It makes our life very easy. And these are things that the more we practice them, the easier that they will get. So we still need the combination that adds together to be this 22. And so that combination is our 2 times 20 here. So what we are going to do now is use those 2 numbers in parentheses. So we're going to do x plus 20, x plus 2. We are not done yet because you can see that our answer does not match the other 2 questions. So what we need to do, and what makes this the swing method, is we are going to divide by the leading coefficient. So if I divide by 5 and divide by 5 by both of the numbers that I got from my parentheses here, we know that 20 divided by 5 simplifies, so it becomes x plus 4. So that one did simplify. But 2 divided by 5 is still a fraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to swing this to the front, so it becomes 5x plus 2. And now you will notice that our answer, again, matches our other 3, which means it is the correct answer since we double-checked it with our multiplication. And that's our final answer. So you've got 3 methods on how to do these problems. I'm going to do the next one also with the swing method because I feel like that one might be easiest for you guys to understand. So let's continue on and do the next example here. So swing method, what we did first was we figured out what A times C was. So in this case, A times C is 3 times negative 14. And again, do not force yourself to do mental math if you cannot do mental math. That's why you have a calculator. I have my calculator off to the side, right? I'm using that as we go. So we're going to list our factors that multiply to be 42. So I have 1 times 42. I've got 2 times 21. We've got 3 times 14. Obviously, we just use that factor to figure this out. We see maybe does 4 work? No, 5's not going to work, right? Because it is not ending in a 5 or a 0. And we've got 6 times 7. So those are all our options because then if we did 7 times 6, it's the same thing, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to think about what combination, if I was to subtract them, 1 has to be negative because of this negative here, would be 1 away from each other. So we're looking for the combination that's 1 away, and that would be 6 and 7, right? They're 1 number apart, and the bigger number needs to be negative in this case, so we're going to do that. So we've got, again, we're going to use those in our parentheses. We've got x plus 6, x minus 7. What we do now is we have to remember to divide by this leading coefficient. So we divide both of our things we just found, our numbers. If they simplify, we simplify them. 6 divided by 3 is 2. If they don't simplify, it swings to the front. That's why it's called the swing method, and we get 3x minus 7. And again, remember, multiplication is the opposite of factoring. If you were to do your rainbows out, you should get right back to how you started. So obviously on your homeworks, you have your answer keys to check, and we're not really sure what assessments are going to look like as of right now, but that is always a good way to check your work. All right, let's flip to the next page. We got 2 more examples to do. So let's try this one with the X method. So X method, we are going to have our X off to the side. We're going to do A times C on the top and B on the bottom. But what do you notice first before we get started with this problem that would be helpful? Oh, there's a GCF. We can factor a 2 out of all of these pieces. And that's what we're going to do, and it will make our lives a lot easier. we get 2 times 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. That made all of our inside numbers a lot easier, and you will see examples where you do need to factor out a GCF before you can get started. Now we're going to ignore this 2 on the outside and just use the values on the inside as our A, B, and C. So A times C is 2 times 6, that is 12, and B is now 7. Again, we're working off of our new simplified, because of that GCF of 2, expression. So we're looking for the numbers that multiply together to be 12. We've got 1 times 12, we have 2 times 6, and 3 times 4 as our options. Well, we are also looking for the combination that adds together to be 7. So that would be 3 and 4, right? So when we do this method, again, this is the x method, we break down our middle term to be those 2 new things that we just found. So this is going to be 3x plus 4x. And then everything else stays the same. I'll just rewrite that stuff down here. But we have 7x's, they're just split up in 2 different ways now. So we've got 3x and 4x, right? So again, we have that 2 on the outside, that was our GCF, but we are just ignoring that for now. We're going to factor by grouping on the inside. So we get 2, and then we can use our brackets like we did in class the last time we had a problem like this. The GCF between 2x squared and 3x is just x. If we divide 2x squared by x, we get 2x. If we divide 3x by x, we get 3. Looking at the GCF now between 4x and 6, that GCF is 2. 4x divided by 2 is 2x. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And we got our bracket on the end to show that that 2 is around everything. It turns out our 2 things in parentheses became the same, so we have that 2 from the outside. Our first parenthesis was our repeat, and then our other parenthesis was the outside stuff, so x plus 2. And again, if I multiply these all out and then distributed a 2 into everything, I would get right back to where we started in our equation. All right, one last example here. We're going to do the last one, which is the 6x squared minus 23x plus 10. So first, we should always make sure that if we have a GCF, we factor it out. In this case, there is no GCF that we can take out of everything. So let's try this one with the swing method again. So we're going to do A times C. So that's 6 times 10, so the first times the last, that gives us 60. And we're going to list all the numbers we know that multiply together to be 60. So we always start with 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, 6 times 10, 7 doesn't work, 8 doesn't work. We know that 9 doesn't work as well. So these are all of our options. We now need to look for, because this number is positive, it's a positive 60, that means both of these are the same sign, but it's a negative in the middle, so it means that these are going to be both negative. So we have to look at what combination of these adds together to be 23, or a negative 23, and that would be negative 3 and negative 20. So using our swing method here, we are going to do x minus 3 and x minus 20. And we're going to divide by that leading coefficient. Divide and divide. Now, in this case, neither one of them comes out to be a nice number, but they can be reduced as fractions, right? So we could reduce this to be x minus 1/2. And this would be x minus, and we divide the top by 2 and divide the bottom by 2, we get 10/3. But remember, that's not how we leave our answers. We have to swing that bottom number out to the front. So that 2 has to swing and that 3 has to swing. So we get 2x minus 1, and we also get 3x minus 10. So we don't leave fractions in our answers here. So that, if we were to multiply it back out, would get us right back to the beginning. And there you go. So we did a swing method, some x methods. We did the puzzling. If you're really somebody who likes the puzzling, you can do that as well. And you're going to work on your day 13 homework now, and then we will meet at the end of class for questions.